Welcome to the Casual Movie Club. This is the podcast where a couple of guys just watch a movie casually and talk about it for your listening pleasure. I'm your host, and this week it's just me, just Brian. There's no John this week. He couldn't make it to the show this week. So what I decided to do was to go back and do or finish a movie that we had only partially completed a couple episodes back. Some of our listeners might remember that we tried to watch Blues Brothers 2000, and it ended in a rage quit, I guess is the best way that you could put it. So what I'm going to do is just basically not go through it beat by beat because that would just take too long and it would frustrate me too much. What I'm going to do is just basically go over the rest of the movie that John and I could not sit through. I had a little help going through this because this movie was just so bad. A little friend I like to call Jack helped me through the rest of this viewing. So for those of you who listened to the Blues Brothers 2000 episode, where we left off was where the chief of police, the lieutenant, or wherever, the guy that was chasing the Blues Brothers, and I say that loosely because the Blues Brothers in this movie is Dan Aykroyd, John Goodman, and some random kiddo by the name of Buster. But where we last left our heroes, they were in the praise tent with Reverend Cleophas James, Sam Moore. They were praising to a really good gospel rendition of the Seven Seals, John the Revelator. And inexplicably, the lieutenant gets overcome with the spirit and floats up through the air and becomes a blues brother. Now there's some fantastical things that happened in this movie, but this was really the first time that things got otherworldly, I guess you could say. Which is all the more confusing considering everyone's reaction to what happens. The lieutenant floats up through the tent, a hole conveniently cut into the top of the tent, floats up, becomes a blues brother. He visibly floats in front of the entire police force of Illinois, the FBI, and I guess Louisiana. They might be in Louisiana at this point. I don't remember. It was an awful watch. All that to say, the police and everyone else who witnesses this miracle, there's no other way to put it, after witnessing this miracle, they are still hell-bent on arresting the Blues Brothers band. Not just Elroy or Elwood or John Goodman or the kid who's been kidnapped, but the rest of the band also. So the lieutenant becomes a blues brother. They all of them, the entire band, piles into the cop car, and they make a quick escape while the lieutenant's assistant, deputy, what have you, pulls a gun in the middle of church and waves it around, trying to get at the Blues Brothers. I gotta say though, the song and James Brown and everyone else, it was a really good song. It was a really good musical rendition of John the Revelator. But the Blues Brothers escape. They go towards I guess New Orleans or wherever it is in Louisiana that this Battle of the Bands is happening. There's a queen involved, maybe Queen Minerva. I don't even remember what her name's supposed to be, but I can tell you that it's Erykah Badu. And they drive through the swamp. They come up on this old mansion that is gated and guarded by, I guess, the Louisiana version of the Blues Brothers. All of these dudes are dressed exactly the same: boots, jeans, denim button-up shirts, sunglasses, and white cowboy hats. But they all are guarding this mansion. The Blues Brothers gain entry, and they talk to Erykah Badu. She's a queen, actually, which continues on the fantastical journey of the Blues Brothers band. Erykah Badu appears out of nowhere and asks them to play Caribbean music for their audition to compete in the Battle of Bands. And Elwood says, lists off all of these musical styles that the Blues Brothers band can play: rock, jazz, R&B, show tunes. We can do everything but Caribbean music. This ticks off Erykah Badu, and she turns Elwood, John Goodman, and the newly minted blues brother, I forget his name at this point, the lieutenant. She turns them all into zombies. Full-on green-skinned zombies. Inexplicably, the band gains instruments conjured up out of nowhere, and they play this admittedly pretty good, funky, I wouldn't say Caribbean, but maybe it had a Caribbean flavor to it, but it was a funky song. And they did great. It was an enjoyable song to listen to, minus some of the lyrics. It was just... the Blues Brothers were zombies the whole time. This movie is so bad. It's so bad. Ugh. Anyway, the band finishes the song. Erykah Badu is impressed. You are allowed to play my Battle of the Bands, and disappears. Meanwhile, the zombified Blues Brothers, they are now turned into just statues, stone statues. Skin no longer green, but it appears to be made out of stone. So now the Blues Brothers band is like, well, what the hell do we do from here? Nothing else is really said of this. No, we don't know what happens to the band. We don't know how they kill time, but the next scene, we're looking at the Battle of the Band itself. And this is where things get bonkers. They have this whole mansion, is turned into a concert venue. There are people everywhere. There's a stage up front, and on the opposite side of the stage, Erykah Badu is sitting, kind of observing the stage. And the first band goes on, and it's a fucking all-star lineup of blues and rock R&B musicians. I won't even begin to try to list the entire lineup, but I can tell you it included B.B. King, Eric Clapton, Isaac Hayes, and Paul Schaefer. Well, Paul Schaefer was actually the MC. What the hell was Paul Schaefer even doing there? I have no idea. He wasn't playing any instruments at all. If anything, it seemed like he was a part of Erykah Badu's entourage or crew, but he was conducting B.B. King's band. It was crazy. It was crazy. Needless to say, this performance was stellar. It was spectacular. It was good enough where I would even go so far as to say John might have changed his music score on this, because I was really impressed with this. I can only imagine John's reaction to this. Oh man, I didn't even tell you guys about how they... backing up real quick, after the Blues Brothers escape the Sunday service in the tent, the police give chase, and Elwood goes through this construction site. He just blows through a bunch of roadblocks and kind of threads his way through this construction site and makes it through the other side. There had to have been 100 cop cars. at least chasing them, and every single one of them crashed into this construction site. It was crazy. People would have died. There were so many car wrecks, cars flying through the air. The budget for that scene alone I can't even conceive of it. There's so many cars just crashed. And at the very end, we have cops pulling cops out of cars. There were literally cars that were crushed and crumpled up. Anyone in these vehicles would have died, lost their lives. I don't even know how this movie could have gone on after this. It got to the point where cars were crashing so much that it was ridiculous. It was funny, and then ridiculous, and then it just bordered onto funny again because there were so many cars. This car pileup went on for so long. I had to bring that up. Anyway, back to the Battle of Bands. B.B. King and Eric Clapton and the rest killed it. Meanwhile, the Blues Brothers band was watching on the side stage and was like, oh, these guys are nothing. We're going to smoke these turkeys. B.B. King kills it. His band goes off stage. The Blues Brothers band set up, and I don't know how they managed this, but they got the still zombified, not even zombified, the still frozen statued Blues Brothers, lined them up in front of microphones, and the band kind of looks around like, how are we going to perform? They're still frozen. Well, I guess we'll just play music and see what happens. And as soon as they start playing music, Erykah Badu was like, oh, yeah, I guess I forgot to unfreeze these guys. Unfreezed. And they kind of pick up right where they left off, where they're saying, we only play rock, we only play jazz, we only play blues, and we never play Caribbean music. Oh, here we are in front of an audience of people. Guess we'll start playing. And they just start performing. Performance was pretty good. It's hard to follow a band comprised of the caliber of musicians that just left the stage, but Blues Brothers did it. And while this was going on, I'm kind of jumping around from here on out because I want to wrap this up as quickly as possible because this movie was fucking awful. The Russians who were chasing them at the beginning of the movie showed up, and then the Nazis or the racists who the Blues Brothers kind of broke up their little gathering after the second police chase where they where the car turned into a submarine and swam under a bridge. They came up and they broke up that little powwow of the racists. The racists showed up, and them and the Nazis, or the racists and the Russians, were going to battle it out. Erykah Badu waves a hand, turns them all into rats. Then who shows up? The FBI, the nuns, the police who've been chasing the whole time. And Erykah Badu doesn't turn them into rats. The lieutenant on stage says, oh, don't worry, I'm with the band now. And the police and the FBI and the nuns are all like, oh, cool. Oh, yeah, it's fine. So then both bands come together, Blues Brothers and B.B. King band, they come together, they start jamming. And it's a good song, it's fine. And the nun looks at the kid, Buster, and looks at Elwood, and they're like, oh, shit. I guess we got to get out of here because I kidnapped this kid days ago and the FBI is after me. So the Blues Brothers all go backstage, John Goodman, the lieutenant, and all of them have a powwow. And they're like, well, the kid doesn't want to go back because he's going to go to a foster home. And they'll arrest Elwood, and everybody will be sad. So what are we going to do? Oh, I know. The kid will kidnap Elwood. That way, everything will even out. Somehow, the lieutenant, a guy who spent his entire life in the military and the police academy in the police force, said, "Yeah, this is a good idea. Let me go back out with John Goodman and distract the FBI and the nuns so you guys can make your getaway." And that's what they do. Elwood and Buster get in their car and they drive away, and they're followed by 100 more cop cars. Roll credits. So that was Blues Brothers 2000. Based off of the rest of the movie that I saw, I'm a little disappointed we didn't finish it. I think John would have gotten a kick out of the rest of the movie. I enjoyed it because of how bad it was. It got worse and worse and worse, and it got bad to the point where it was funny. It was funny at how bad it was, and it wasn't bad on purpose. They were trying really hard to make a good Blues Brothers movie, but it was awful. I think this last part, I would have lowered a lot of my scores. I would have lowered my script score. I maybe would have lowered my acting score. I would have raised my music score, because the music on the rest of the movie it just got better as it went on. But yeah, that's the rest of Blues Brothers 2000. I really cannot recommend this movie. I can't in good conscience recommend this movie to anybody. Yeah, so that's going to be it for me. If you want to reach out to us, we can be reached at casualmovieclub@hotmail.com. Shoot us an email. You can find us on Instagram at Casual Movie Club, Twitter, Casual Movie Club also. And if you want to, you can also give us a phone call, leave us a voicemail, send us a text message. You can reach us at 402-882-2742. And that's going to be it for me. We'll be back next week. Both me and John will be back, and we'll be watching the movie The Craft. I'm really excited about that one. It's going to be a good time. All right, everybody. Thanks. We'll see you later.